In today's video, I'm going to be showing you the complete process of swapping from mechanical to hydraulic disc brakes. I'll be installing Shimano GRX 400 series brakes and shifters to replace the generic mechanical brakes on this Kona gravel bike. Mechanical disc brakes tend to have poor braking modulation and lower power. They also tend to be more bulky and heavier than their hydraulic counterparts. To start this replacement process, I'll need to remove the entire mechanical braking system from the bike. The old brake lines are hidden under the handlebar tape, so the first step will be unwrapping the tape to expose the cables. As you can see, sweat has fully saturated this tape, resulting in the rusting of the shifting hardware underneath. If you're a heavy sweater, it's definitely a good idea to change bar tape every year to help prevent this. In some cases, sweat can even corrode and damage the handlebar itself, but luckily that wasn't the case here. Gloves also probably would have been a good idea here since this tape had a sweaty and moldy towel smell to it. Once the bar tape is fully removed and the cables freed up, the next step is to loosen the cables at the brakes, starting with the front. I like to cut off the ends of the cables so that removing them is smoother and easier. This bike also had a fork guide that needed loosening in order to fully remove the cable housing. Then I could get to work on removing the brake caliper from the fork. This was a two-step process. The first step was to remove the caliper from the adapter, and then I could remove the adapter from the fork. It's also important to note at this point which type of brake mounts your bike has, as there's a number of different types and associated adapters. The rear brake follows all the same steps. Loosen and remove the cable, then remove the caliper, followed by the adapter, and also note the rear caliper mount style of your frame. The cable routing for the rear brake runs through the frame, but removing it isn't too tough. The more challenging part will be routing the new cable through, but I'll show you later in the video a simple trick to make this easier. All of the gear wires will need to be replaced as well, since hydraulic brakes will require new shifters to be installed. So the bike really does need a lot of parts removed just to change the brakes. Once all the lines are loose, the shifters can be loosened and then wiggled down the handlebars. I always try and work these off gently to avoid scratching the bar, and sometimes it can take a little patience to get them loosened off. And with that, all of the old parts are off the bike. Some of these parts can be cleaned up and reused, but heavily worn items will need to be disposed. The next step will be to prep the bike for the new parts. Because the old handlebar tape was so soaked with sweat, the bars needed a good cleaning before putting the new parts and tape. I'm just using water and a microfiber cloth here, but isopropyl alcohol may be required to remove old glue residue from the tape. Then I wipe down the brake mount areas to ensure the new brakes would sit flush on the frame, also just using water and microfiber cloth. And after that, I can make way for the new parts. In this case, Shimano GRX 400 series shifters going on, which have hydraulic brake levers and mechanical shifters. There's also a lot of compatibility considerations when picking shifters, brakes, and derailleurs, so spend some time prior to ordering to determine what you need. Each box comes with a new lever, brake caliper, brake hose, shift wire, and the associated mounting hardware. The small bag of hardware parts includes a red pad spacer, a notched cable housing end piece, caliper mounting bolts, an anti-rotation clip, a hose barb insert, and a cable end cap. The first step is to mount the new shifters onto the bar. Roughly place them so the plastic handle part sits flat with the upper part of the handlebar and loosely tighten them in place. Then reinstall the brake caliper to the fork, also only loosely tightening the bolts at this point. Then the hose can be routed through the fork guide, secured, and temporarily held in place at the handlebar. The reason everything is only being loosely attached at this point is because we're going to need to further position it and adjust it later on. The steps are repeated for the back brake, but this is where we have the internal cable routing to deal with. In order to access the cable path, I had to raise and angle the bike and remove the access panel under the bottom bracket. Then I fed a shift cable through the shell towards the rear brake. Using a magnet, I fished it out of the small hole and pulled the cable through to use as a guide. Then I taped the brake hose to the cable and carefully pulled it through the frame to get to the bottom bracket access area. And yes, this did take way more time than I'm showing here. Once the cable was through the first part of the frame, I repeated the steps to pull it through the down tube and up to the front of the bike. If you have a cable guide, now is also the time to install that. With both brake lines routed and secured, the next step was to install the new shift cables through the shifters. The notched end cap needed to be installed on the shift housing before feeding the cable through. So I cleaned up the end of the cable housing and pressed this on. Then I fed the cable through the housing until it came out the back of the bike. The cable housing could then be placed into its final position at the shifter and derailleur, and the cable lightly secured into place. I was able to keep most of the shift housing in place and reused most sections since it was in good condition, which made routing the new cables much easier. With all the parts now routed, I moved on to the fine-tuning of the components. I started with the rear brake. First, I removed the caliper from the frame and inserted this adapter to the underside of the caliper. The adapter lets you run a 160mm rotor with direct mount brakes. The next step involves measuring the thickness of the frame at the brake mounting surface. This is so you can reference the Shimano chart that tells you down to the millimeter what length your securing screws need to be. I measured the point on the screw, locked it into my vise insert, and then used a Dremel to carefully cut the screw down to length. Using a cutoff disc is generally the best way to cut through screws, as it doesn't mushroom the threads and leaves a clean cut. It's important after cutting to make sure the threads are smooth with no rough edges. And it's also always good to test out the threads with a bolt to make sure they're smooth, since you really don't want to damage the threads on the inside of the brake caliper. Once you have your bolt and it's been double checked, the caliper can be attached and put back into place. Next, the brake lines have to be cut down to their final length, and I'm using the Shimano specific tool for the job. This part can be done without the specific tool, but it's a much easier task if you have it. The hose must be cut perfectly straight and then also have a barb insert pressed into the end. The barb insert also must be pressed in perfectly flush to the end of the hose, so take your time doing these steps. Now the lever can be prepared to accept the hose. I'm removing the compression nut and also the olive fitting from inside the lever, and then fitting them onto the hose. Then both of their surfaces must be coated with grease before inserting the hose back into the lever. Press the hose all the way into the lever and then start tightening the compression nut. As it's tightened, the nut will be squeezing the olive to create a perfect seal. The bolt also needs to be torqued to its final spec, which is 5 to 6 Newton meters, and a special crowfoot adapter makes this much easier to measure. After the bolt is torqued, it's a good idea to clean all of the surfaces from oils and greases before securing down the hoses to the handlebars. There's quite a few precision steps in this process and one of the more complicated parts of the job, so working slow is a good idea here. With both sides now attached, double check the handlebars can spin freely before moving on to the next step, which is to bleed the brakes. Bleeding the brakes is the process of pushing air out of the system so the braking feels firm and direct when you squeeze the lever. Install the bleed funnel at the lever and then prep the caliper by removing the pads and installing a bleed block. Then you can slowly fill the bleed syringe with brake fluid, making sure you also empty it of air bubbles before attaching it to the caliper. Attach the syringe, then open the bleed port and start pushing fluid through the system. It will slowly fill the bleed cup and keep pushing until most of the syringe is empty. Then close the bleed port, remove the syringe, and clean the area with isopropyl alcohol. Then move up to the lever and start squeezing the lever rapidly. This will pressurize the system and help work out any remaining air. You also want to angle the bike down, squeeze the lever more, and then angle the bike up and do the same. This helps the air work its way out and results in better braking. Repeat the up and down motion a few times and then use the plunger to plug the bleed funnel and then gently unscrew it from the lever. Then reinstall the bleed screw and clean the area with isopropyl alcohol. Finally, go back to the caliper, remove the bleed block, reinstall the pads, and screw them into place. It's also a good idea to put in a pad spacer at this point to prevent the pads from getting stuck. Bleeding one brake should take around 15 to 30 minutes, so like in the previous steps, take your time and work slowly here. It's also a good idea to inspect your brake rotors at this point. Old rotors will have deep grooves and also be thinner on the braking surface, both of which will negatively affect braking. When selecting your new rotors, make sure you select the correct size and attachment style for your bike. The ones I'm using are 160mm 6-bolt rotors, which are removed by loosening all 6 screws on the wheel. You can see the new rotor doesn't have any of the deep grooves on the braking surface, and it also measures the full thickness of 1.8mm. New rotors also come with new bolts that are pre-coated with thread locker, so it's generally best to use these as well. I'm loosely installing all of the bolts first, and then coming back with the torque wrench to tighten the bolts in a star pattern to ensure even clamping. With the new rotor installed, the wheel can go back on the bike. Because the brake caliper isn't aligned with the rotor, when the wheel spins, there's a lot of rubbing between the pads and the rotor. Aligning the caliper can be done by eye, but I'm using this shim to help with this. First, loosen the caliper, then install the shim, rotate it between the pads, squeeze the brake, and tighten the caliper. This will ensure there's a small gap on either side of the rotor and the pads are not touching. The front wheel follows the same process, and while the wheel is spinning, you can double check to make sure there's an even gap between the brake pads and the rotor. The finishing touch for the front brake is this anti-rotation clip that helps prevent caliper loosening. With the brakes done, all that's left is to give the shifting a quick tune. The only thing that will need adjusting for the shifters is the cable tension, since the positioning of the drivetrain hasn't been moved. On the rear derailleur, turn the barrel adjuster counterclockwise to add cable tension, and go up and down the gears a few times to ensure they're working well. The front derailleur often doesn't have a barrel adjuster, but this particular model has a built-in tension screw. So after securing and routing the cable, shift to the big ring, then do a small click of the shifter to enter trim position 1. From here, the adjustment screw gets tightened, which adds cable tension until the white lines line up. And don't forget to add cable end caps to prevent the cable from unraveling itself. With everything aligned and tuned on the bike, the last step I did here was to ensure the shifters were installed evenly on the handlebars. I'm using an adapter that threads into the expander bolt, and then a derailleur hanger alignment tool is threaded into that. The hanger alignment tool can then be used to determine the height of the shifters and ensure they're both at the same setting. My adjustment by eye was pretty close, but I needed to bring the left shifter up around 1 centimeter to make the two even. Loosen and adjust the shifters until they are even, and then the alignment tool and adapter can be removed and the top cap reinstalled. The final step is to install the new handlebar tape. Wrap the tape with good tension and ensure even overlapping as you wrap. I have another video with more detail on how to wrap handlebars, so I'm just showing this step here with a time lapse. And with that, this job is done. These new brakes should be much more powerful and responsive and also look quite a bit better as well. Stay tuned for some more videos in the future on how you can maintain your hydraulic disc brake system.